With Benny Blanco defeated, the Furlbrow farmstead was starting to feel a little bit safer. The surrounding areas, however, were still overrun with Defias bandits, including the Django Lode mine where we had kited Benny to. In order to help the good people of Westfall, I took it upon myself to continue killing many of the Defias trappers and smugglers who were camped in and around the mine. During my killing spree, I was interrupted by a kindly mage who warned me to be careful and that there were 3 elite mobs that had spawned nearby. I thanked him for his warning and continued removing bandits from the mine. Once I was satisfied with my work, I returned to Gryan Stoutmantle at Sentinel Hill. At some point, he had requested that I lend aid to the people of Westfall by taking up arms against the Defias. After boasting of my deeds, I was awarded with 5 silver and enough experience to level up to level 14. Gryan wanted me to continue bringing the fight to the Defias, but I had other plans. I headed north toward an easier kill quest that would drop a useful item, but I got sloppy along the way. I accidentally butt-pulled a second carrion bird while my healing potions were still on cooldown. Erring on the side of caution, I consumed one of my final 2 sprouted fronds. I did not mind having used 3 of them learning the fight with Benny, but I now wanted to avoid wasting such a precious resource. After escaping the birds, I successfully made my way north to Farmer Saldine's farmstead. He wanted me to put down 20 harvest watchers, which was a great chance to grind some experience and also farm some hops, which would be useful later. Truth be told though, I was experiencing some quest ADD, and as I wandered around the zone, I encountered what could only be the 3 elite mobs that mage had warned me about earlier. It wasn't 3 elites though, it was a high-level rare alongside 2 ads. A level 19 mob was not something I was interested in engaging with, but I quickly realized that I was standing very close to a certain structure I had become very familiar with. I killed some mobs to clear a path and began my kite of Leprithis, the rare ghoul. I easily took it down, and I allowed the ghouls to reset. I walked up to the now dormant corpse, and I acquired the Ghoul Fingers, an extremely powerful pair of leather gloves for a self-found adventurer like me. After my kite, I killed a few more Defias so I could finish looting their red bandanas. After gathering enough, I headed back to town and handed them to Scout Galleon. I intended to receive some durable mail boots, but instead opted for a stylish new cape as I knew of a few different options for acquiring footwear in the future.
Light bless you.
I headed back to Stormwind and underwent some warrior class training. I also found this cool guy who would sell me stronger healing potions. I hearthed back to Westfall and I committed to completing a quest. I finished shutting down the rogue automatons in Saldine's farm and picked up some more hops. I only had time to accomplish a few more tasks before gaining too much experience, and so I began the next leg of my journey by taking the long trip to Darkshore. I wanted to do some questing there in order to gear up on some stronger mail armor. I also wanted to wind down my evening with some casual fishing and flower picking. I packed some deathweed into my hickory pipe and struck my flint and tinder. I hung out with Gubber Blump and caught some Darkshore grouper for him. In return, he rewarded me with a stronger fishing pole.
Some real nice groupers, adventurer. Thanks for...
I continued to fish until I felt I had gained enough skill that I could seek further instruction from a profession trainer. I headed into Ruttherin village and considered spending precious silver coins on fishing training before heading into Darnassus proper. I went to cook some of the fish that I had gathered, and it was there that I made camp for the night. Feeling refreshed, I ventured out into the forests of Teldrassil to gather plants. While there, I took the opportunity to infiltrate the Gnarlpine Hold and slay Ursal the Mauler and free the remaining Night Elf druids. I moved over to Dolinar, where I trained cooking and announced the defeat of Ursal to Arthritis Bearmantle, who awarded me enough experience to level up to level 15. I could finally equip the Ghoul Fingers, and I also had to choose where to spend my next talent point. I considered improving my Demoralizing Shout, but ultimately chose Unbridled Wrath for the chance to gain additional combat resources. I gathered more herbs on my way to Darnassus. Once there, I crafted many potions in order to gain skill in alchemy. I learned how to make the Elixir of Minor Fortitude as well as those lesser healing potions I had been buying. I trained in first aid before storing my potions in the bank and heading out of the capital. I trained in fishing before flying back to Darkshore, where I accepted 2 quests. One was from Gubberblump to harvest crab chunks that would reward male boots, and the other was from Thunderous Windweaver to investigate the ruins of Bashal Aran. I trekked north to the ruins and discovered Asterion, a night elf trapped in a magical blue prison. He tasked me with slaying the nearby Grells and Satyrs, and while doing so, I made an awesome discovery. Heat slot bag. I looted an ancient seal and took it to a different nearby ruins where it could be destroyed. After doing so, I returned to Asterion, who was freed, and he rewarded me with the Explorer's Vest. I moved over to the beach and started gathering crab chunks. The drop rate seemed very low, however, and I thought my time might be spent more efficiently elsewhere. I didn't know exactly how much leeway I had before my next challenge quest. There was also a required prerequisite quest chain I still had to work through, so I got on a boat headed for the wetlands and began my journey to Loch Modan.
Farewell.
I had already grabbed the first pre-quest previously, and I got to work slaying the Stone Splinter Troggs in order to defend the King's lands. The scouts and basic Troggs posed little threat, and I quickly had killed enough. I returned to Mountaineer Cobbleflint to report my doings, and I received 5 silver and a handful of cheese. I accepted the next quest from Mountaineer Gravelgaw. He wanted me to kill the Stone Splinter Skull Thumpers and Seers. The Thumpers were easily handled, but the Seers required a good engagement. As I fought my way through the Troggs, I made a truly lucky find. This powerful axe was a massive upgrade. Oh, let's go. Hell yeah. I wandered back to the weaker Troggs to take a few practice swings with my new weapon, as I was not truly proficient. While I was there, I found a new chainmail chest piece. It was identical in stats to the one I was already wearing, except it had one more int. Int does nothing for a warrior except increase the rate at which weapon skills improve. As I was currently training weapons, I found this highly amusing. As one more int. During my fighting, I took a bad engagement against 2 Seers. I performed poorly in combat and waffled between targets and failed to interrupt any spellcasting. The incoming damage was too high, and I had to bail. I ate my last sprouted frond to stay safe. Now I had no secondary healing item for my upcoming challenge. I managed to kill enough Troggs, and while doing so, I found a +4 healing cape I unironically decided to save. Oh, nice for my level 50 Diamond Flask healing set. I returned to Mountaineer Gravelgaw and was met with 7 silver and enough experience to level up to level 16. This was the final level I could complete the next achievement quest at, and that quest was to slay Grawmug and his two buddies, Brawler and Gnasher. I spoke to Mountaineer Wallbang and accepted the final prerequisite quest, slaying the Stone Splinter Shamans and Bone Snappers. Before that, though, I headed back to Ironforge where I trained in First Aid and class skills. I returned to the Stone Splinter Valley and approached the cave where my next quarry hid. During my approach, I found a new shield that was a marginal upgrade. I made my way deep into the cave and began my rout of the stronger Troggs. Bone Snappers were easy foes, and by now I had been trained in how to interrupt healing spells, so the Shamans were not too difficult either. I just had to move carefully and with purpose in such a dangerous area. While in the cave, I found some new pants and also new gloves which offered more armor and more stamina at the cost of damage. I played around with switching the different pieces of armor as I continued with my Trogg slaying. After killing enough of the stronger Troggs, I hearthed out of the cave, back south to the human kingdoms, where I would begin my final preparations before my showdown with Grawmug. I wandered around the Mage Quarter in Stormwind, looking for someone named Charisse Isarion, whom I heard could sell me even stronger healing potions.
Greetings.
I managed to locate her ancient curios shop and found this to be true. I left the city and began running east toward Redridge, where I could do some last-minute questing. I stopped by the Tower of Azora along my way and spoke to Dawn Brightstar, whom I hoped to buy some scrolls from. Unfortunately, I found her current supply to be lacking. I continued my run until I made it to the human settlement of Lakeshire. I met Dockmaster Baron, who wanted me to fish up 10 spotted sunfish. I made myself comfortable and I cast my line. I handed the fish over to Baron and I received the fish liver oil, another consumable that was both potent and limited in resource. I flew back to Westfall and began hunting dust devils. These powerful elemental creatures had a small chance to drop the amazing magic dust. If I could have managed to kill them, that is. After one failed and one successful kiting attempt, I made a third kiting attempt deep in the fields. This dust devil for some reason decided to completely beat my ass. I honestly thought this mob had thrashed me, and I drank a strong healing potion in a panic. I ended the encounter early and gave up on my magic dust farm while happy to be alive. I timidly stepped into Duskwood and made my way to Raven Hill. I spoke to the goblin Liztic in search of more of the healing potions like the one I had just wasted. He was fresh out, though. From Westfall, I flew back to Stormwind and managed to score some more of those big healing potions from Charisse. I also found this cool librarian that had lots of different scrolls for sale.
Well met.
I gathered my hops from the bank and made my way into the Dagger Hills of Westfall, where I found my dwarven brother, Grim Booze Thunderbrew, who was able to brew my hops into a keg of Thunderbrew.
Hops and barley, yeast and malt, the taste buds feel a virtual assault. No need to plead, no need to beg, for Thunderbrew lager comes in a keg.
Watch your back.
I flew back to Stormwind, and at the Mail Armor Merchant, I upgraded as many pieces of white armor as I could afford, despite the high price. I sold some non-essential items to afford one more piece of armor, and I flew to Loch Modan. It was time to attempt my next challenge quest. I informed Mountaineer Wallbang of my exploits and received some useful sharpening stones. I made my way up to Captain Rugglefuss, but he would not offer me the quest to kill Grawmug. It turns out I had forgotten there was another prerequisite quest I probably should have been doing alongside the other ones I had already completed. I begrudgingly accepted the quest to loot Trogg teeth, and I began killing the weaker Troggs in order to try and keep my experience low. I'm glad I left as much of a buffer as I did because I did not anticipate needing this extra quest. I quickly looted the teeth and returned to the captain.
How are you?
I completed the quest and accepted my next challenge quest while looking at my experience bar. Just like with Benny, I had left a very small margin for error. I approached the cave and I applied many buffs. I very much wanted to try to finish my challenge before this random priest's fort buff wore off. I slowly cleared a path through the cave and I jumped in this pool of water to test to see if it was safe. Sadly, it turns out Troggs can swim. I pulled and killed the patrol that roams this area and I applied my final buffs before marking my foes. With my rage bar full, I charged and activated Stone Form before throwing a bag of marbles and thunderclapping. I cast Demoralizing Shout and began to backpedal to attempt melee kiting. Brawler knocked me to the floor, which is why I was targeting him first. In the flurry, I forgot to use the fish oil. The first of my 3 foes went down easily. I tried to stay in the fight, but things quickly went poor. I drank my only healing item and prepared to reset. I slowed both mobs, but failed the easy jump up to the safe spot. I jumped up, but Grawmug was already too close and could still hit me. This was worst case scenario. My only choice was to try to reset again. I jumped down and moved away and refreshed my slows. My health went dangerously low, and I made the jump. I bandaged and took my hands off the keyboard. I sat down to heal and wait for my cooldowns when I saw something truly horrifying. Another player character. I could not afford to be interrupted. My experience bar couldn't afford killing more mobs. I rushed in before my potions were ready. I tagged both mobs and began kiting them backwards. The mage kindly stepped in to help, and I tried to discourage him. With a bittersweet sense of completion, I looted my kills. I hearthed all the way back to Westfall, as I had only 215 experience to spare before leveling too high and failing the challenge.
Only the finest goods.
I bought back the items I had sold earlier to afford my boots, and I took the long trip back to Loch Modan. Oh, that was so scary. I spoke to the captain and I completed my achievement, and in return I received a sturdy new shield.
Be good.
That one was hard and scary. I forgot to put on a couple of my potions. So many buffs. And the keg of Thunder Brew as well. Alright, we got it. Grawmug taken down before hitting level 17. We were pushing it super close there with experience again. You know, I don't like cutting it that close, but I also forgot about the tooth crew quest from this guy. I realize I didn't film an outro. That's going to be it for me. Thank you for tuning in. If you're interested in supporting the channel, please consider following on Twitch and subscribing on YouTube. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!